Yeah, today I'm in the backyard at the site of my new shed. I spent most of my summer of 2024 working on the shed. Most of my free time was spent working on this shed. And in the fall of 2023, I poured the slab and the ramp to prepare my slab for building in the summer. I knew it would take me a while to get this done because I was doing most of the work myself. The whole shed construction is done by myself alone, but the slab I had help pouring that from my neighbor, and I greatly appreciate that. So I broke this video down into 3 parts, and you found the beginning of part 3. This is the video log of the 3-part series. Part 1 is the shed slab design and plans. I show you what I've done there, and then part 2 is the shed plans and design, and I show you that I got that from the Family Handyman, like I show on the screen here. Be sure to go to their website and take a look at it. They have a lot of great tips on their website, and I really do like this shed design, so be sure to check it out. However, I did modify the shed, and I did come up with some problems with their drawings and with their design, and I point those out here in the vlog, and I point out some of them then when I'm talking about the actual design. So it originally was a 12 by 16 shed, and I made it into a 12 by 20 shed, which I really think the 12 by 20 looks a lot nicer. It needs that extra couple of feet on each end. A 12 by 24 shed would also look very good, I think, in this design. So I give you that information in part 1 and part 2, and this is part 3. So I hope you bear with me, and if you're really interested in building a shed, take a look at it. Share with me the experience of building the shed. This video is a little bit different than what I normally do. At Stiles Automotive, I do general automotive work, modifications, and tips. I also do some lawn tractor maintenance, motorcycle maintenance, and things like that, but usually automotive type work. And I thought that this video would be helpful for you, and I'll show you my design because I've modified this design. So I'm going to give you something of value other than what the Family Handyman has given us. Now this video is a repeat of what I just played as I was talking over it for my introduction, but I wanted to point out a few things as we're looking at the video. I want to point out here, you can see as we're looking at the forms on the outside, you can see my batter boards out there. You can see the 6 mil moisture barrier, my rebar that's laid out in a grid with the wire ties on it. You can see the paver bricks there that are there for my my mixer, my wheeled mixer. It's kind of like a wheelbarrow. You can looking down into the forms here, and we can see that there's rebar down at the bottom of my footers. So I dug out a footer all the way around to give me a little extra strength. And the advantage of that footer too is it helped me get that extra dirt so I could build up my bed on the inside for my 4-inch slab right here on this end. And then you can see there's quite a drop off here on the end, and then it goes into a little ravine. And I did a little bit of rock work. You know, I know it's not the greatest, it's not the prettiest, but that's my first attempt at a rock wall. And I chose to do that so that I didn't have to buy more plywood. But I thought that would look kind of nice too at the end, kind of give a rustic look. But that's why I did that mini rock wall to be a form for my concrete on this end. So I poured the south end there, the north end, and then took out those boards across the center, and then the 2x4s across the center that are notched out. Then I poured the center. So Saturday was the north end, the south end, and then Sunday morning was the center. Overall, 5 pallets of 80-pound bags of Quikrete. Okay, so here's the update from 17 October, almost a month later, not quite. The day before I poured the ramp, I had to get another shipment of Quikrete, so I got 60-pound bags this time, about a pallet and a half. Had about 10 bags of Quikrete left, but still needed more. So I got the shipment and dug out the sod leveled my site, got my forms cut down, so I reused my forms and had to taper them, and got the footer dug out for the ramp. So this is showing just before I put the rebar in and then the wire mesh. It's on center with the slab. Center of the slab. Center of the ramp. And it goes from the door width, which is where the brake lines are in the slab, to 9 foot wide. So 7.5, 7 foot 7 inches or something. It's the door width, and then 9 foot here on the at the base, and these are the two 8 foot pieces of plywood that I used on the sides. Just repurposed them. Of course, I had to cut them down at an angle. They're an angle so that they match the slope. So they start out being the depth of the slab, which is 16 inches, 1.5 feet there. And then as the slope goes down, they go down to where they're just a 2x4 above grade on the short side, and then on the long side they're a little more than a 2x4. But then I'm going to fill all this in with just topsoil and replant grass here. Of course, that'll be standing up over there, so there'll be a step over on this side, but this side fill with topsoil. So put a layer of stone, and then my vapor barrier, my 6 mil of sheathing down, and getting it ready to pour. I'm going to put, got all thread rods since I wasn't able to penetrate with my rebar. I had just a 3/8 drill bit, so I had to get some 3/8 rebar. So on each side there's a 3/8 rebar down in the bottom that runs here, and then back to my 1/2 inch rebar down along the end, and then 3/8 again on that side. And then my neighbor had the idea of just doing all thread rod. He had these anchors. He's an industrial plumber, so he had these anchors so they could drill into the concrete, and threaded those in with some cement adhesive. Put those in, and now I'm putting the all thread rod on, and it's going to support then the wire mesh. So I got a little bit of rebar I'm putting in, and then the wire mesh. So this is the update after the ramp pour. It's sure easier to mix when the mixer is up on the concrete slab and all the bags of concrete are up on the slab, and then to pour it down into the forms. You can see here, this is just before I did the heavy brush. This is outside, so it's a ramp going up into the shed, so I used a heavy brush on it. All right, I've got my cement slab ready to build on, but I just epoxy coated the slab today. Pressure washed it a few days ago, and got the Rust-Oleum epoxy on clearance from Menards, normally 180 or something, and it was like 125 on clearance. I still had a few of them left, and just did that today. Looks pretty good. Chose the sand color, and so it seals the edges where the pressure treated lumber is going to go on. So if I wash down the slab, it should be in pretty good shape. Of course, I got a standoff for electrical if I want to run electrical out here. So built just that into the slab, the dormer wall, so I don't have to do anything crazy later on. And then the header and bring electrical underground. I also did the little roof that goes over the door. Shed. Pre-assembled that. Since I was going to be installing the ridge board myself, doing all the work myself, I came up with these for instead of just a regular 2x4 to hold up the ridge board to give them a little more support till I got the rafters installed. Here I'm using the slab to cut the bird's mouth on the rafters, and then I get into the first day of framing. I just put the ridge beam supports up. I put them on before I put the top plate on so that I could through nail them from behind and then put that top plate on. Shed's coming along pretty good. Still got a little bit of OSB to put on the sides, and then start with the rafters. Just assembled the new scaffolding. Got that on sale at Home Depot for half price. That was a good deal this winter. Wished I could get a couple more. It'd be nice to have one or two more. I've actually got two, and then a caster set too. So pretty happy with that. Feels a little bit rickety. Have to get used to climbing on it. Anyway, so give you the 5-cent tour of the new shed. Big door on the side. So instead of 2x4s like the plans called for, I went with 2x6s. The 2x6 studs at Menards, Home Depot, and whatnot are just so much straighter in a 2x6 than the 2x4s. You're more likely to get a better 2x6 regular stud. And then planning 4 windows. So in the dormer, there's going to be 4 windows up here, and then 4 windows here. That's going to give me a lot of windows on the side. I don't know. The ones in the plans were smaller, so these are cheaper and bigger. So I'm going to have a lot of window on the side. Plan to put a bench on this end so I can look out the window when I'm working on something on the bench. I don't know. It's just a storage shed, so I don't plan on doing a lot of work out here. So the Family Handyman, this was a 12 by 16 shed. I turned it into a 12 by 20 shed and went from 2x4s to 2x6 stud walls, but left 2x4 rafters. So little video log. This is day 3. Had the cement slab poured before the winter. Finally got my shipment from Menards of all my wood on Friday. So this is Monday. Saturday, started framing. So I'm got to get my rough openings cut back out with my router, and then I'm ready for the house wrap. So the shed project is coming along. So this is what I came up with to support my ridge beam. Since I'm doing this by myself, I would stand up, be able to set the ridge beam in that, and then be able to install the rafters. So I just cut out the door opening with the router. And then two of the windows rained just a little bit. Thunderstorm today, so didn't get too wet. So the ground is pretty dry yet. It just rained just a little bit. So gotta get those other two rough openings, and then covered up two of the windows, which need to be cut back out. And I don't know, 2 windows looks like enough. 4 windows is a lot in a little shed like this. But 4 windows over in the dormer, and then 4 windows on the end is what was in the plans. Really could have probably done 2 and 2. Would have been nicer. A little more light, ambient light. Anyway, that's the progress so far. "36 by 54, 54 and 18, and then 2 full sheets of plywood, or 8 foot tall rather, and then those are 45 wide. So studs spaced with a 24-inch opening for windows, and double studs to surround the windows. Then full sheet, and then notched out for the door. Partial 4 foot wide sheet that goes 30 inches up. Then another full sheet that's been notched out for the door, another full sheet. So that worked out pretty good. So that's 3 pieces that are 4 foot wide. So 12 foot wide dormer. Worked out pretty good. So then the seams continue to line up. Worked out pretty good. Of course, 12 foot wide. So full sheet, full sheet, full sheet. So 3 sheets, 3 times 4, 12 foot wide. And then the back side is simply 5 sheets, 4 foot by 5 to 20 feet. To continue with my video log of my new shed, again, I'm trying to replace this cruddy old wooden shed and then this old Sears metal shed. Wanted to increase the square footage just a little bit so I could store everything from there, and then some of the stuff like the leaf blower that ended up in my garage doesn't need to be in the garage anymore. So getting the house wrap on it today. Got just a little bit left to trim out yet for the house wrap, and then start framing the roof. Really looking forward to getting some OSB on rafters on the roof. So here we are, Saturday morning. This is 1 week worth of work. So last Friday, not yesterday, but a week from yesterday, I got a delivery from Menards of all my wood. And so this is 1 week's worth of work, and then a little bit of work this morning. I put up the subfascia here and here. So instead of 2x4s for a member across here, I think I want to do 2x6s and do 3 of them here, and so I can put some plywood there and then make a loft, and probably do the same thing on this side, put a loft up there for storage. think that is the way to go. See if I can give you a view of the rafters. So I used a lot of the hurricane connectors, made it really easy to install the rafters. You can see this. I was going to run out of these connectors. So one side you can through bolt or through nail and then use just one. So here's an example of that right here. So hurricane connector on the far side of that. So right, no connector on the front side, and then the connector on the back side, so you're able to nail through from this side into the other board. Gives much better connection than just a toenail. So I don't think I talked about it before, but instead of cutting my header down, I kept it the full 8-foot length. And since I used a 2x6 stud wall instead of a 2x4, now I'm 3 2x10s deep. And then with the 2 layers of OSB, 1/2 inch thick, to give me my 5.5 inch thickness to match my 2x6s. So that gives me a pretty significant header over my door, but my door is wider than what the plans called for, and it's slightly taller. So I believe that's true. It may be the same height because of the stud wall height, but it's wider than what was prescribed. And I tried to match that with my my ramp on the outside, but nobody ever complained that the door was too wide. They always complain the door isn't wide enough, so made it as wide as possible. Of course, my dormer is just like the plans called for, but overall the shed is 12 by 20 instead of the 12 by 16. Quick update on the shed. Yesterday worked on a little bit of the dormer side sheathing, and then the eaves. Point out the plans and the instructions in the article didn't show any ladder bracing here. Added that for a little extra strength on the edges there. And let me show you one other thing that I changed. On these backing boards that they had to tie in to for a nailer behind the OSB on the dormers, I used 2x6, and that let me go even on the bottom with the 2x4 that was already there, and then still have some lip on the top to nail to for the OSB. Just gave a cleaner looking installation, I believe, than using a 2x4 there. Didn't get my length exactly right on my tip. There wasn't much of a tip there to nail through the ridge board anyway. You can see that, a bit of a gap, but plenty of nailing surface to the other 2x4. And then of course I used a little bit of liquid nails on it. So I have my subfascia board on the back side of the shed. So I have one eave to install on this side, this back corner, and then I'm ready for OSB to go on the back side of the roof. You have to install this OSB panel and the dormer panel before you do the eaves on the dormer. So I still have that yet to do. Up here. And then we can finish up the roof sheathing up on the dormer. Okay, I think it's been a couple days since I did a video. I've got all the roof sheathing done. This is what the shed looks like, 12 by 20 shed. I'm rattling with my loose nails in my nail pouch. So I said I had the roof sheathing done. It's not entirely true. And put down my glove here. I still have this little piece right here to do, and I'm using OSB for everything except for that right there. I'm using pressure treated plywood right there just in case it should leak underneath those windows. But I've got a plan to keep it from leaking. If it does leak right there, I'm going to use the self-adhesive tar paper that's going to go across there. And so I bought a roll of that, so I'm going to do it all the way across and then do the front here for sure and attempt to do the back, see if I have enough. I'm not sure if I have enough to do all three ridges there. So I had some temporary drop cloth there because I didn't have enough house wrap to go all the way up in my peaks. And it rained the other day, so that was my fix. Get that done. Let me see if I can walk around to the back. It's my stone work to help it so that my concrete forms weren't too large. This is an interior view of the roof sheathing. You can see anywhere there's a seam, I used 2 of those OSB clips, or I put blocking there. So in most cases I put blocking. I still need to add some bracing here. This is what the plans called for, was 3 of these braces coming across, but I want to add at least 2 more here, and I have extra 2x4 to do that. So I got my ridge cut back so I can do the ventilation down the ridge. I've heard mixed reviews on that, whether about 10-year lifetime it gets plugged up, but that's what I chose to use, Owens Corning with its shingles, and that's what it suggested, cut it back an inch from the ridge board. That's what I did. I didn't want to do that completely all the way. I wanted to be able to tie my roof sheathing into my ridge board. So I left some spaces there where I could nail into my ridge board. for added strength to the roof. Working on dormer window openings today, and when I changed the plans so I could use a Menards 20 by 25, 20 wide by 25 tall, I made them so that they were go up into the eaves further and then down lower. And when I did that, you can tell this is where the original plan would take it, another 2 by 4 thicker here. So what I'm doing is using a piece of backer board for behind tile or whatever that I had left over, and so that's going to create a slope for me so that the bottom of the window, water washes down it and then down here, and I'm using pressure treated plywood here on this part of the roof. So here's the nailer out here, and then the framing back here with the sheathing on it. And I want to create just a little bit of a slope so water doesn't go inside. And so I'm gonna have to cut down my window. So I planned on a 25 deep, 20 wide, and now I'm taking up some of that with this backer board, 3/16 of an inch or something here in the front, and then I'm spacing it out 3/16 more back in the back. So that's okay though, because those windows are made to be cut down like 5/8 of an inch on each side. So that's what I'm working on. I think this will work just fine once I seal this, and then I'm going to use the self-adhesive storm or weatherproof first layer here that's self-adhesive. It'll come down from the bottom all the way up here and kind of create just a little bit of a seal for me there. But I'm going to keep it up here, and then I'm going to treat it just like that's sealing the window. So I'm going to cut it here and keep the lip just like I'm doing for tying in a window. But I'm going to go all the way across, and then I'll run a piece here around the window and bring it out to tie it in, just like I'm installing a regular window, but there's no flange on these windows, so I'm kind of creating my own eave. So I'll just put a board back here to seal all the way around, and then a board behind here. So a board in front here, and a board behind here, so when water washes down the window, it comes this way, doesn't wash inside. Okay, here's an update on the shed. I took some material out of the windows so I can make larger windows. So there was 2 by 4 going across the bottom here. Because I did that, I wanted to do this extra barrier. So this is a water and ice self-adhesive layer that's granulated. So that goes back, and I treated it just like it was the flashing for a window right here on the windows. And it's a peel and stick, 3 feet wide, and then the width of the roof. And it was quite challenging to get on. I mean, it would lay out just on a regular flat roof, but because of the dormer here, quite a few wrinkles. And I just slowly worked it over time, worked it. Figured out I was a little short on one end, so worked it. You had wrinkles in it, here and here, and just worked it out. So that's the result of a couple hours worth of work, honestly. It was rainy yesterday. Wanted to do a little bit of roofing work yesterday, but I was able to get the water and ice layer down yesterday and then retarped it before it rained. Today I'm doing a little shingling on the backside. So Owens Corning starter set, and then shingles, and then the ridge pieces, and Owens Corning ridge vent. I'll show you those to you inside. Yeah, so cutting the shingles, they're cut at 6.5 and 13 for the second and third course. So then the Owens Corning duration, true definition duration, and I'm going with the brown wood color. It's a darker brown. So starter set here. Already used a few of those. Those are also Owens Corning, and then underneath those, that's the ridge shingles that are already pre-cut from Owens Corning, same color. So here I picked up some of the roof jacks for safety for Menards. They're made in China, but still these are the thickest ones I could find, the ones that are on the internet on Amazon. I'll put a link to the Amazon page for some, but so you got an example, but the ones at Menards are much beefier. They're welded construction, and they also have a gusset in them. The other ones that have a rivet in them. I also picked up some of the adjustable ones. These are under $10. They're like both just over $8, $8.50 or something each. And honestly, at $8 each, if you got the 90-degree ones, they'd make great shelf brackets. So anyway, that's my plug for Menards. Not that, and 10% and 11% off, right? If you use rebates, which I hate, but saves a lot of money on bigger projects. Well, back to roofing. All right, I haven't done an update in a few days. So did the main part of the roof here. I'm waiting to do the dormer roof. I've got the fascia on in the front and painted. I cut and painted the fascia for the sides. Haven't put it on yet, but I want to get the main roof done first, then put that so it overlaps. So get that fascia on top of the shingles here and the cladding right there. And then I'll do the dormer roof. So that hasn't been shingled at all. Still working on the far side here. Got just a few more shingles left to do there. And then I can put that other fascia on this side and then do the drip edge all around, and then do my tar paper or the rain and ice sheet. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Get the roof done, get the shingling done, and then I can start working on the siding. I have plenty of time to do that later on, but it's really looking pretty good. Pretty happy with the shingle work. It's just taken a little bit of time with that dormer, custom fitting each of the 5-foot sides on the main roof around the dormer, and then the step flashing on the sides there. So I haven't taken down my fall protection on the back roof yet, in case I need to get up there for something. But these are the best fall protection. So these are the adjustable and I just have a 2x6 on it. I didn't use the full 2x10 or whatever it calls for. It's now 3 July. I just finished the roof. So I just finished with the Sure Vent ridge yesterday. Let's see if I can back up and show it to you. I probably should have just vented over the top of the dormer, but I went off into the main part of the roof and decided to not do that on the south side. So on the north side I left it as planned, vented, but then on the south side I didn't. It looks a little uneven if you know what to look for, I guess. But you know, just trying to have a little bit of vent in, keep the heat down in the shed and moisture down in the shed, because I'm going to be putting my lawn tractor in there. There'll be wet grass clippings on the mower deck when I put it away, and that always smells moldy, so I want to get some of that moisture out. But that's Owens Corning Duration shingles, and the first thing I did was did the back side. That was the easy side, and then I did the main part of the roof here, and then up the sides, and then just finish the dormer. That way I could get this piece of fascia on and have the shingles go back underneath the fascia there just a little bit. So just to stack it, a little bit of water protection. Pretty happy. Now I finally have a dry shed. I don't have to tarp it off. Wanted to record where I have my roof tracks here this morning, because I'm going to leave the screws in there. I'm not going to fold up the shingle so far that I can take the screws out, so I'm just going to lift it up and leave them there, leave them in place, so if I ever want to use them again I always can. So that's the double rafter over there on the left side, or the north side, and then the first single rafter, and I did the same thing on the other side, so it's matching on the other side. So right there, the first double rafter. Yeah, so here on the back side, this first jack is on the same place as the front. It's on that first main rafter on both sides, and then this one's in the center, and you can see there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then under the 8th shingle is where the screws are at. I see that after I completed the roof, I haven't done a video to show the update, so I've hung the fiber cement 4x8 sheets and painted them. So it's a Sherwin-Williams paint, and sheets go all the way around. I still have the trim work to do, so anywhere where there's a seam, there needs to be a fiber cement 1x4 put on there. And I'm not going to put a 1x4 on the bottom. I'm just going to, I took care to make sure the bottom edge is all even, and then trim out the corners. So that's complete. I've done the fiber cement siding up on the edges, framed the windows in with their trim, and then set the windows in. I haven't secured them in the back, but they're just going to be fixed windows, and those are in. I had to do some trimming on the windows to get those in, and I've installed the far side, the north side windows, and then also trimmed them out. Those turned out pretty well. So I have yet to do a little bit of trim work yet, and I want to do the soffits first. I have the soffits on order, so they get installed, and then the trim piece that goes on the top will go on after the soffit. That way it sits up tight against the soffit. So I have those yet to do. Gonna frame out the door, and I have the last little bit of fiber cement siding to put on up here, and then frame out the door. But I need to do the siding so I can do the piece up there, and then that way the other trim pieces that go down the seam will fit tight against the trim piece up at the top, which is just gonna be 1x4 fiber cement, and then the corners are the 1x6 fiber cement here. So I did 1x4 here on the front, and then 1x6 on the edges. So that's what it looks like. That's the update for today. So the next thing is get the soffits in. They should be coming in today. This was projected at Menards, and hopefully they'll be here. Okay, here we are at the end of July. Give you a quick update on the shed. Working on the fiber cement siding here on the end. Pre-painted it, kind of a beigey sand color, kind of going with my outdoorsy theme. Got a little bit left to do up on the peak there, and then to trim it out. Got the trim left on the seams yet, and the edge trim there on the corners. Then of course the pieces up here on the dormer, and got some soffits. Really need to do soffits before I can trim it out properly so that the trim fits up against the soffits. My soffit material that I ordered from Menards came in, so picked it up. So the main eaves down at the bottom are 24-inch, or they'll need to be cut down a little bit. And then the vented soffits here, this is some lap siding. This is engineered lap siding. I'm going to use that on the ends, running up the sides. It doesn't need to be vented. It seemed like a good material to use for that because I use 12-inch wide, so get 5 of those. And then here's the 24-inch wide, 3 pieces, 16 feet long of the vented that goes down here on the bottom, both front and back, and then 12-inch vented, 16 feet long, but it needs to be 169 inches, 169 and an eighth up there. I don't know if I said it before, but I like to buy stuff at Menards because you can buy it online and then go and drive into the yard and load it right into your truck. That's very convenient. And even if you're there and you forget something, you can always go on their app on your phone and purchase it and then put it in your truck, and then you've got proof that you bought it and be able to drive out with it, which is amazing. I like that. Of course, for me, Menards is a little bit out of the way, and I pass like 3 different Home Depots just in and around where I live. And I've always been more of a Home Depot person because they've always given a 10% military discount. And I know other people like Lowe's now gives a 10% discount, but I don't go to their stores because I go to Home Depot because they've always given the 10% discount. So anyway, in part 2, I show you the complete bill of materials, where I purchased them from, and what my price was. Be sure to check out all 3 parts of this video for the complete story. I don't know if I've done an update since, really, since I installed the windows. Starting on that, you know, the end pieces, that fiber cement lap siding or shingle siding. I haven't done it on this end yet. And the window install. And I didn't do anything fancy there, but especially on the bottom, I just trimmed out the windows. I didn't do any kind of a drip edge or anything on it. It's the north side. The north side of my house doesn't get wet that often. Once in a while when there's severe weather, it does. But I didn't do any kind of a drip edge on the top or any kind of a seal here on the bottom. I just trimmed it out and then made sure everything was caulked good and tight all the way around it. Anyway, calls for the 4 windows, which I did, and then it matches the 4 windows on the dormer. And I want to do 4 or 8 windows, maybe 4 in each door, or 4 windows on the 2 doors. Once I design the doors, do that later. That'll be the last thing I do, I think. So that is the update for today, getting to be the end of July. Want to have this done by the end of the summer and be ready for the winter and get some shelves inside. Also bought some of the electrical for inside. Right now I just had an extension cord running in there and running my cheap Menards LED lights. So they come in packs of 2, about 4 foot long, or not quite 4 foot long, 40 inches or something. You know, got those in here. Okay, another update in the beginning of August, middle of August. Still working on the soffit on the bottom, got the soffit complete on top. Need to cut and fit these. It's like the plan called for 24-inch wide soffits here. Of course, it's custom made, and these aren't even 12 inches wide. So at some point, you know, the design should have been a little bit bigger so the soffits fit right. Either that or I did the rafters wrong or the plans are wrong. And I'm pretty sure I cut the rafters just like the cut plan. This side attic still needs plywood on it, and then a little bit more of the cross bracing here. And then also need to work on this side attic. Been working on a little bit of electrical. So we're gonna have inside lights, which are gonna be up here and then down here in the work areas on both sides. And then an attic light on the left side, which goes up to these 2 outlets up here. So let's see if we can see them right there in the attic. So you can plug in some fluorescent lights or LED lights nowadays. So yeah, so lighting, and then a spare, and then outlets. So I got 1 outlet there that's run. Need to run some up and across, and then over here. But I want to have a bench underneath the window here, so I'll have to figure out outlets later. But I need at least 1 outlet. Give me able to plug in an air compressor out here and then the battery charger for the long tractor. That's the important thing, plus lighting. Then I'm gonna install another box up here somewhere with a off switch, just a regular light switch to turn the lights on the outside. Those would be motion detected or whatever on the outside, but I want to be able to turn them off if I need be. So that's where we're at. I don't think I've missed anything other than that in the updates. An update on the shed build. I just completed the eaves yesterday. Now I need to put in some trim boards and trim along here, and then finish trimming out my corners. I still got a few of the end boards to do here, but that's what the eaves turned out looking like. Haven't painted the nail heads yet. They're all stainless steel nails, so not a big deal, but just looks a little nicer once. Added some lights over the door. I don't know how effective they'll be because they're so close to the door. But they're very inexpensive. Chinese made from Home Depot, 15 bucks for the 4 lights. Now's the time to install them where it's easy when I'm putting the eaves up and everything's nailed. It's not screwed, so I can't take it back down. That's where I'm at right now. This is an update on the 2 attics. This is the south attic. It's 4 foot wide, and I just used some leftover 1/2-inch OSB on it. So overall, that is about 10 feet wide of a platform on the top, because it's 2 12-inch pieces here and then an 8-foot, complete 8-foot piece. And that's 4 foot deep. And that sits on top of the top plate, which is very stout. And then I used the hurricane brackets on it. So that really tied the rafters together on each side. And on this side, I wanted it a little lower, so a little more room on top. So this one's 6 feet wide, but I put that with the deck bracing, and so those just have screws. I'm going to reinforce that with a piece of 2x6 across here, across the studs, I think, to give it a little more support. But it's really pretty sturdy up on top, but I've got no weight up there yet. This side, I used just regular flooring, 3/4 inch, with the tongue and groove for subflooring. And I bought the cheapest linoleum at Menards. It's a 6 foot wide, 9 foot long, and it's about 20 bucks, 23 bucks or something. So it won't quite make this side. This side is 11 foot 3 inches. So it just, each of the plywood overlaps onto the stud wall, onto the top plate of the stud wall here on the side. and then in the back. And that's a pretty sturdy little attic. So that's it. I still want to put some linoleum on top to weatherproof it a little bit, and then to keep it from getting scuffed up so bad. And still working on some lighting underneath, tying in the lights. So gonna have outlets on one circuit, lights on another circuit, and switched so you can turn the attic lights off independently of the house lights. And then working on a set of lights. This will be the workshop on this end, strictly storage underneath that loft on the other end. So it kind of gives you a feel of that it's a little bit bigger because it goes all the way up to the dormer, you know. So the overhang here is where you're gonna work underneath, and then once you're out here, the main part, I want it to be just pretty much left open, so it gives you a feeling that it's bigger in here. And of course, I don't know if I mentioned this in another video, but did a double stud here and then tied them together on the back side. A double stud here, and made sure I tied them together good. And this, so the corners all got the blocking in it here to tie it together. Same way on the other side. So those corners are all blocked together very good. And then of course the header was reinforced. I used an extra 2x10 on that, and then extra studs here on each side. The other thing I didn't say with the attics, I don't believe that I've said, is as soon as I got the wall framing done and I started doing the rafters, I think I would install these attics. Even if you didn't put the flooring on it, you could just lay some extra OSB down, and then I of course have the scaffolding, but it would be so much more convenient, so much easier to get the roof OSB up and on if you had these attics installed where you could stand on. It'd be much safer than using the scaffolding. The scaffolding, of course, is a little lower. My scaffolding's 6 foot tall, and so it gives you an extra couple of feet of elevation, get you up closer to the rafters, and it would make life a lot easier getting that OSB on the roof. So that's my recommendation. That's something I should have done. That would have been a lot nicer, having those attics installed to have access to the roof. You know, I was leaving one of these panels off so I could climb up on the roof, and that would make it easier yet to get up there and access the roof until the last OSB had to go on and you had to do the shingles. Okay, so I've gone into great length on these silly attics, but hopefully that helps you out. That wasn't really in the plans, and gives you a lot more storage space up above. I don't think I give an update since I put some of the corner trim on and the trim along the eaves. But winter has hit. It's a cold day today. did get a lot of the trim work done before winter hit. And that's what the finished back wall looks like. Still have a door. I had to remove part of the trim up on the top there to finish off that eave. And then I have some trim work on the far and on the north end also. But just a door and a little bit of trim work to do. And then a little bit of siding up on the top over here. That is as far as I got for the summer. So that concludes the video. If you found it helpful, let me know in the comments, and please subscribe. I look forward to your comments.